Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and Happy New Year everybody. It's New Year's Day today, 2019. So to celebrate, we're going to be having a look at Joe Maphis, and I'm going to be looking at a couple of videos because we've got a couple of examples of his technique that he's got going on. Joe was around in the 50s and the 60s, and we're going to be having a little look at Joe and his double neck guitar to begin with. So let's get Joe up on screen and see how he gets on. I'm just going to jump in here because this video that we're looking at is just a compilation of a lot of Joe's solos. So just breaking down this first one, we can see the amount of alternate picking going on and just the amount of ability that Joe had for alternate picking. We could see there that he's anchoring that little finger on the right hand and the picking hand just on the body of the guitar, which you sometimes see with players that aren't alternate picking, but sometimes they don't anchor that. So it's just one of those things that, depending on how comfortable you feel with having a finger anchored or not, and also to give you that reference point. Something that I want to draw your attention to in the beginning of that solo section was that he was applying a palm mute at the same time as doing that alternate picking. And this is something that can give a real dynamic change to the sound of that alternate picking. Otherwise, it just seems to come across at one level. But the technicalities of actually resting on the string and getting that palm mute with the alternate picking, again, it's one of those really top technical things that takes a lot of practice to get that down, because a lot of players just hover above those strings and get that alternate picking in there, but then to have the hand rested on the strings at the same time as alternate picking, it can be a bit of a struggle because some players just like to stick the hand in a particular position or be able to move up and down the strings, whereas now rotating your right hand so that it's resting on the strings and alternate picking at the same time is sticking two techniques together, and that combination can take a long time to get down. And obviously Joe spent a hell of a lot of time practicing and not only getting down the alternate picking, but then modifying it so that he can play that alternate picking with the palm mute as well. And I always say this, the techniques here are exactly the same as the techniques that you're going to be using in heavier genres of music. The only difference is that Joe's playing over major keys here, so it's going to sound happy to listen to when you start getting into hard rock and metal and other genres, heavier genres that use alternate picking quite a lot. They're all going to be based in minor keys, and that's why it sounds different to country music, but it's the same techniques that are being employed. I'm going to be queuing up a video in a second that's going to show Joe's hybrid picking because he's great on the acoustic guitar as well. But while we're talking about guitars, let's just mention this Mose Wright double neck guitar that Joe's playing here, because the top one is just a smaller version. It looks like a mandolin almost, but it's just a smaller version of the standard tune guitar that he's playing, and it's tuned an octave higher. So it means that everything that he's playing, all the muscle memory, all the runs are exactly the same on this small guitar, but they're just a little bit more difficult to play because of the smaller fret size and getting your fingers in there, and also the strings being closer together, watching out for that pick. So he has to be really accurate on that small guitar, but of course he absolutely nails it. And I've queued up another video from the Jimmy Dean show so we can take a look at Joe playing on acoustic as well. So let's check this out.
Well, I got 10 folks in Carolina. Now that's the place you find my family tree. They're scattered from a little north of Georgia to a little bit east of East Tennessee. But there's a little gal on top of Old Smoky with a soothing sort of little ticket on the New River train, and I'll make 'em my closest kin folks. Go on now, Joe, here. Kin folks in Carolina.
Got a few myself.
That's the place you find my family tree. Well, they're scattered from a little north of Georgia to a little bit east of East Tennessee. But there's a little gal on top of old Smoky with a soothing sort of little southern drawl. Well, I'm gonna buy her a wedding ring and get me a ticket on the New River train, and I'll make her my closest kin folks after all. You hear me, Maphis? I'll make her my closest kin folks after all.
And there we go, great example of Joe's playing, hybrid picking there, because he absolutely nails this whole piece. I know that we've got Jimmy singing over the top, but if you're just listening to that guitar and the way that Joe's putting it together, we've got a great little solo section in there as well. But Joe is playing here with that running bass line, so it means that those combination of bass notes and lead notes all coming from the same guitar. And it just shows Joe's versatility, playing acoustic, but then also electric as well. But these combinations of techniques, that hybrid picking, but then also just flat picking, alternate picking that we had in the first video. So he's all over these techniques as well. He's really worked at them to the top level so that whatever somebody wants to sing or whatever a band wants to play, Joe can play along. He's got all the techniques that you could ever want. And Joe was actually playing in the 1940s, but then at the age of 23, he then joined the army, which would have been 1944. And then he got the gig of entertaining all the troops around the world. And then after a couple of years, he got discharged. After this, he then started to play on WLS radio in Chicago. But then he moved back to Richmond, Virginia, and got involved in the whole country scene that was going on at the time there, which included Merle Travis. He was playing around those times. And also Joe met his wife, who was a talented vocalist and guitarist herself, and actually played with Joe live for the rest of his career. And unfortunately, Joe died in 1985, and his idol was Mother Maybelle Carter, who I've done a video on this channel, so check that out if you don't know who she is. But he was such a fan of hers, and the family was such a fan of his and his playing, that he's actually buried in the plot next to Johnny Cash and the Carter family as well. Joe had 3 sons, and one of those sons, Jody, actually played with Johnny Cash. He's a drummer, so he played drums for Johnny Cash, also of Scruggs, and Marty Stewart as well. So all of those guys you can find on this channel as well. But it's certainly continued that legacy of Joe's playing and his ability and that music, that country music that just runs in the family. So Joe Maphis, it's great to see this amount of technical ability so early on. He would have been doing this in the 1940s. I know that he came to prominence in the early 50s and then on, but he would have had all these techniques down, and that hybrid picking as well, all down to such a high level. Just a quick shout out to the channel that I'm looking at here. It's called When the Cowboy Sings, and it hosts loads of country videos, so whenever I get country requests, this is the channel that comes up. So if you're looking for anything country, just head over and check it out. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one.